Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. I am Rick Weaver. I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Mr. Duckworth. And as you can hear my dog in the background, I'm sorry about that, folks. Tonight we're joined by Mr. Richard Stewart Taylor, author of the book My Encounters with the Forest People, America's Last Free Tribe. Now, I have read some of Richard's book today, a very awesome book. Ladies and gentlemen, I recommend that each of you go out and buy a copy of this for your Bigfoot library. This is a great addition to it. I know that I will be ordering a copy tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, uh, let's turn it over to Blake, let him make his intro, and we'll get things started. Go ahead, Blake.
I hope everyone's having a good night. And as always, if you guys aren't subscribed, if you don't mind, go and hit the subscribe button, bell notification. If you want to, give us a like and a comment. We are continuing to grow, so if you aren't subscribed, please, by all means, take 2 seconds, just hit the subscribe button, and that's all, Ricky.
Okay. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Richard Stewart Taylor, author of My Encounters with the Forest People, America's Last Great Tribe. Please, everyone, go on Amazon, check it out. Take you a couple of minutes. It'll be a great addition to your Bigfoot library. And without any further ado, we're going to bring Mr. Stewart on and let him tell his story of what got him interested in the Bigfoot phenomena. Richard, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing fine. Doing fine, folks. Doing fine.
Richard, we're sorry, ladies and gentlemen, about the little problems we had tonight. Back up and going. Richard, go ahead. The floor is yours, bud. Go ahead and tell your story to the folks.
Okay. Osio Nagad Dohiju. Richard Taylor Daiwado. Hello, folks. How are you? My name's Richard Taylor, middle name Stewart. I'm a mixed blood tribal member of the Cherokee Nation. Very proud of the native lineage my full blood grandmother and mixed blood grandfather gave me. But I'm equally proud of the Scots, Irish, Dutch, and German that flow through my veins. I can't change it. I can't be anybody but me. I'm a mixed blood tribal member and really enjoy it. The Cherokee elders passed down a story. You won't probably read it much in books. A lot of your native groups hold some things close to them, kind of like any clan or family group that doesn't discuss some things freely with outside people. But the Cherokee called these beings the Uni Udawahi, and basically loosely translated is forest beings of the lost tribe. The Cherokee had no fear. I'm sure there were skirmishes, just like any intertribal conflict. You get one group, and another. There is friction at times, but for the most part, the Cherokee would put out edible roots, berries, and offerings around the perimeter of their villages for the Uni Udawahi, and in turn, they would be watched over during their hunting and gathering endeavors. In other words, it was a symbiont kind of a relationship. And that's the point that I reached after having some of my first experiences, and some of the things happening. It wasn't mere chance. It wasn't a random act by an unpredictable animal, but things were done in a very calculated manner. And when you have things happen again and again and again, you begin to realize you're not dealing with a dumb base creature here. you're dealing with something that has intellect and cognitive thinking, and add to that extraordinary powers. I won't get into what some researchers call the woo factor, but I can tell you this: if you've done it long enough, you're going to have a lot of "what in the world was that" moments when you're out there squatching. I'm sorry, it's going to happen to you. It's not a maybe; it's a sure thing. And I can truthfully say, folks, absolutely nothing surprises me anymore. Do I understand it? Not not totally. Uh, what I do understand is they are a group with clans, tribal groups that don't need our help. They don't really want our help, but they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, with many areas, being developed and taken away from them. Having said that, though, my first several experiences were within, I want to say, a mile or two of some landfills, and I do believe they live off the land. They know how to live off the land, but if it comes to a free meal or an easy meal, they can't pass up landfills and dumpsters and stuff. I mean, some of these restaurants, people don't hardly eat their food. If you were to go out there that night, you could probably fill yourself up. So my son and I, it was back in the early 2000s. We here, and this is, I live in the Dallas Fort Worth metro area, not highly known for, Bigfoot activity or reports, although the stories go back about the Lake Worth monster.
Hey, Blake.
The Get closer. Okay. I'm sorry.
I tell him Blake is Max muted.
Okay. The Lake Worth monster.
Your Blake,
And
I'm
Lake.
sorry, Blake, your Max muted.
I know. So you don't hear the vaping.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Blake.
So
Try not to interfere with audio.
I got you. Don't want to think of winds blowing up or something, tornado coming through.
Right.
But there are reports and stories around the Dallas Fort Worth area. But me myself, and I know I'm dating myself, but I remember when the Patterson Gimlin film first came out as a young adolescent. I looked at the video and I remember the hair on the back of my neck standing up. The thing looked real. It looked living. It didn't look like some guy trudging in deep sand with a suit on. I'm going to tell you right now, it would have taken a lot of practice and a very athletic man to have the fluid motions that Patty moves with in shifting sand. I don't know if you've ever tried moving quick or run through sand, but it's tough. I mean, dressed normally, not wearing a big bulky suit. One of the things in my early days, and I know I'm digressing from my early story, but I was at a conference in East Texas. The fairly well-known group, I won't mention it here, but I had run into a man from New Zealand that was a cinematographer and specialized in special effects, worked on Lord of the Rings and a bunch of these well-known movies. Real nice guy to talk to, and he was interested in Bigfoot, and we just kind of had a chance meeting there. And it came up when I found out what his profession was, and I said, "Have you seen the Patty film?" He said, "Oh yes." He said, "Man, that's one of my best, Bigfoot videos to look at." And I point blank asked the man, and this was back when I was, seeking answers. I said, "Could that have been produced in 1967?" And he didn't hesitate. He said, "Absolutely not." He said, even in with the technology we have today, having, producing something like that, and especially going back, not video, we're talking 16 millimeter, or it was 8, no, it was 16 millimeter film. He said it's almost impossible, but be it as it may, the skeptics will pour out and put out anything they can to poo-poo this. For what reason? I kind of think they can't handle the truth. They don't want to really know there's something that big moving around out there in the woods. But going back, my son and I were night fishing along a creek, only 12 miles from the house here. Okay, not the Pacific Northwest, not even southeast Oklahoma. We're talking North Texas. And we had gotten out there about 8 that night, set up folding chairs, lit up a Coleman lantern. And, it was around early spring. So after about 6, 7 o'clock, it was dark out there. And we were out there from about 8. It was past midnight, maybe 1, possibly 2 o'clock. I didn't journal it, but I know it was after midnight. I started hearing a noise to our north, and we were parked, with the tailgate down, sitting in folding chairs. We had stink bait on the bottom, minnows under a cork, throwing lures, just for any or everything coming through, and catch it. We caught a few throwbacks. Nothing. We weren't knocking it out, but 2 hardcore fishermen. If you're a fisherman, just being out there wetting a line is nice. Okay. And it was after midnight. The Coleman lantern wasn't that bright. We had cap lights to bait our hook, or where we needed extra light. So it was fairly dim light that we were setting in. Across a little side slough, we were kind of parked on this corner, this little apex where a side slough ran into the main creek. So we had water on 2 sides of us. I started hearing movement to our north. A brush of leaves, crackle of leaves, pretty distant, maybe 100, 200 yards, just aware something across that side slough was moving south towards us at a slow rate. Wasn't worried, wasn't concerned. You got armadillo, coyotes, raccoons, all kinds of night foraging animals. And most of them aren't going to mess with you anyway. But I noticed the sounds, were getting a little bit closer, which was a little odd, but not troubling. At some point, and this is where, Ricky, and Blake, people describe this all the time. They get that unmistakable feeling of being watched. Okay. And that feeling started coming over me. It didn't freak me out. It didn't highly concern me. But my level of attention clicked up a couple notches, and I kind of looking back around in the parking area behind my truck, and just my first career was public safety / law enforcement. I know bad things happen to good people, and I was armed. I had a little 380 in my fishing shirt pocket, and I had a 357 in the truck. And so somebody tried to come out and hurt or threaten us. It'd have probably been bad for them, but I just was aware. I didn't want anybody creeping up trying to, do anything. That was the feeling I got. Somebody was watching us, and it really went up higher when at some point, if you break a pretty good sized branch in the open air, like you hold it up over your head, the echo and resonance is different than if you step on a branch and it snaps under your feet. There's a muffled sound to it. You can tell the difference between a branch broken above ground or on the ground. And I heard that dull crack of a fairly good sized piece of wood breaking under the weight of something, like someone or something stepped on it. And that was on the other side of that side slough. So my level of alertness really perked up, and I looked over there, in that dim Coleman light, I couldn't hardly see the brush line. So I got up, put my pole in the chair, walked over to my pickup, and I clicked on a Q-beam spotlight. And I would say it was 100 feet to the brush line from where my truck and we were setting. I scanned up and down it, not really expecting to see anything, but on like my second pass coming back, a facial shape momentarily appeared in the moving circle. Now it wasn't sticking out of the brush, but you know these powerful beams will break through the cracks and gaps in the leaves. It was recessed back there, but enough of the filtering light hit it to give me not a snout, and it was a round human-like facial shape hidden back in the leaves back there. And I passed it before my mind really, keyed to the fact. But I stopped and I yanked the light back. Well, my son saw, my jerking movement. He wasn't paying much attention at first, but he looked over and he said, "Dad, what are you doing?" And I didn't want to, he was 15 years old at that time. I didn't want to tell him, "Hey, man, there's somebody over there." I didn't want to spook him. I just said, "Look," I said, "Oh, I'm just looking, quit panning." I actually minimized and turned it off, put it back in my truck, walked back over to my folding chair, sat down there and continued fishing, but listening, and glancing over every now and then. I want to say it wasn't more than 10 minutes, probably not less than 5. I heard a faint swish, some stirring, some movement. And as I looked over in that dim Coleman lantern light, I saw the object arcing out of that brush line towards us, and it happened so fast. All I had time to do was just a quick glance and saw this thing coming in. We were about two feet, maybe 3 feet off a sharp drop off on the bank. That object hit probably five to 6 feet away from us, probably 3 to 4 feet off of that sharp bank, and it hit the water right in front of us. I mean, it wasn't a bass coming up, and it wasn't a gar turning. It wasn't a beaver slapping its tail. It was an object. It was an incoming object. And it hit the water about like a 50-pound child doing a cannonball off the high dive. I'm not talking about a little splunk or splash. It was a poof, whoosh. I mean, a big splash. And man, we were both falling back in our folding chairs, getting splattered with big drops of water. And I jump up, and my son's already dropped his pole, and he's lunged at me and hugging me up like a leech, terrified, and I'm pulling him back away from the water, and he's yelling, "What was that? What was that?" I mean, the kid was freaking out, and I wasn't showing it, but in my mind, I'm thinking, what was, what? I mean, I'm overload, emotional overload, because I'm pulling him back, seeing these big waves fanning out away from us. And the first thing that came in my mind, if that had hit either one of us, it could have injured or killed us. I mean, it have busted us up, at the very minimum, busted us up bad, hit you higher in the chest or head, maybe kill you. So I felt, really threatened at that point. Forget the little 380 in my shirt pocket. I race over to the truck and I grab my Model 66 and yank it out real quick out of the holster, and I yell out loud. I said, "That's not funny. You could hurt somebody." And I'm kind of keying in where I heard the noise and the face. And I get over there back as close as I can to the side slough bank. And I'm looking, and man, my level of alertness is up. I by no means would have indiscriminately shot into the brush, but I can tell you, if it came from a certain direction towards me, I'd have probably double tapped that direction into the brush. I'm sorry, that scared the daylights out of me. Well, I was very I was scared and aggravated over the fact that we were out there minding our own business on open public land. We weren't trespassing, weren't bothering a soul, and someone or something was really seriously messing with us, you know. And I wanted to jack back. I'll admit, I went ahead and cocked that pistol back single action, aimed it straight down into the mud beside me, turned away and plugged one ear. I don't know if you've shot a 357 without ear protection, but
Oh,
the
yeah,
first
yeah,
shot,
very loud rabbit.
yeah, very loud. The frequency is just, I mean, it hurts your ears. The first shot, your ears are just screaming with ringing. And the second shot, you can't hear. I mean, you are deaf for a while. So anyway, I turned one ear away and then plugged the closest ear, and I cocked it back single action, and I fired a round down into the ground. I had made another statement. I said, "Look, I've got a gun. If you throw something again, I just may shoot." And I went ahead and shot anyway into the mud beside me. When that gun went off, if you're a hunter and you've jumped a big buck deer in thick brush, or even maybe an elk or a moose or a horse takes off, there's a distinctive sound to how a big, powerful animal can plow through thick brush. I mean, it's snapping, it's crushing, it's like a baby bulldozer, basically. And on the other side of that slough, it took off away, directly away from us, plowing through thick underbrush. I couldn't have ran through it. I probably couldn't even walk through it. I could have probably crawled and twisted. You know, some people in some of the country don't understand the thick underbrush in some of the areas of our country, but it was thick, and that thing did not slow down. I mean, it plowed away from us, very, very high rate of speed, and we just listened to it fade out. And then, you know, my jaw's open. I look over at my son. He's looking at me. He goes, "Dad, what was that?" And I said, "You know, son, I don't know, but let's go." You know, we picked it.
Question for
Go,
you. When you heard
what?
this thing take off, could you actually tell that it was bipedal, or did it sound like a four-legged creature? Or
You know, all I know is it sounded like it was pushing and pulling itself through that. Like things were being grabbed and twisted and broken or brushed out of the way. There wasn't a gallop, you know, to it. I didn't at the time, you know, I don't remember hearing anything like a horse, you know, or you know, a rhythmic. Uh, just a lot of stuff being pulled, broken, and plowed through. Whatever. What I did know, it sounded big, Ricky. I mean, it sounded big, not small, by any means. And that it didn't freak me out, but it was just the rock coming in, hitting close. I mean, my whole senses and level of thinking was very, very. My head was spinning. It was an overload, you know, on my senses and stuff. Hold on, just a second. So I have allergies, you know, and my nose
oh
was
yeah,
running.
yeah, believe me, mine's been killing me here lately.
Oh, change of the seasons get me either way. Going winter or coming into the spring. Change of, you know, fall to winter, and then later the spring, it'll slam me again. But anyway, it. I wanted to get out of there because I just didn't fully understand what was going on. It's years later. My son's grown, has given me a couple of granddaughters since then. And there was a producer here about 6, 8, maybe 12 months ago that wanted me to tell my story. It was they wanted to put it on the Travel Channel and all that, and reenactment. And folks, to this day, grown men, my son didn't want any part. I would, you know, I was willing, but they said, "No, we need your son," you know, who was there. I called him up and he said, "Dad, I'm not interested. I don't want to." He still he has never went out squatching with me because he don't care to know. he, Ricky, there's a lot of people, and Blake, you know this too. There's a lot of people that don't really want to know. They it 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 is a mind or head overload for them. Well, with me coming from a background of forensics, investigative, endeavor, I kind of sat on it for a couple of years. I'd tell the story. I'd get people shrugging their shoulders and saying, I'd ask them what could have thrown that, and they say it's an interesting story, but they go, man, I don't know, and don't know. And with me, it bugged me, and I don't know. I can't tell you. I know it was at least 1 or 2 years later. I was surfing the web, and I don't know how the link came up. It was off Google or something. I might have been Googling something about fishing. I think that might have been the thread that connected it. But there was a thread there that said fishermen attacked at night, and whoa, that got my interest. So I double clicked. Well, the thread led me into the BFRO website, which I didn't know it existed, up until then. And I started reading the story. Now, it was multiple fishermen and there was multiple rocks thrown. But I'm going to tell you, folks, man, I read that and I actually got chills of some of the similarities to what they were dealing with and what happened to my son and I. And that got me interested in looking at other, accounts in the BFRO. And I was freaking out that there were that many reports in Texas. Of course, they are, a bunch of this, Georgia, almost any state in the, continental area has got stories on it. It really shocked me, but it stoked the hunger I had for more answers. And I eventually tentatively submitted my information to the BFRO. And I thought, yeah, fat chance anything's going to happen. Did you know I got a call a week later from one of their field investigators? And he talked with me at length. I told him my story, and he goes, yeah. He said, we're aware of a couple other fishermen complaining and making similar complaints along that same waterway. And I go, you got to be kidding me. He said, no, but they're not published. I learned the BFRO only publishes maybe about 10% of their reports or less.
Yeah,
they've got a whole host of information.
Yep, my report's
I don't know.
BFRO. Yep.
Good deal. Yep. Well, there's a ton of them. For whatever reason, they set on them. I don't know. And I'm not being judgmental. I'm not being anti. I think they do a great job, collecting information. Well, after hearing that, there was a house on a side street, kind of a ranch house with horses and fences. Again, folks, I wasn't at the point where I even thought, well, they may exist, and they may not. I at that point in time, didn't follow the Cherokee routes, that I had through my mother and family members, but didn't even talk about it at that point. But anyway, wow, sounds like a herd coming through here or something. I don't know where that noise is coming from, but anyway, okay.
Yeah, it was my heater. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Wow. It's just anyway. I sent a letter to this home. I used a business PO box so they wouldn't know where I really lived. And basically, the letter was I had an unusual experience on the creek behind your property. I'm just wondering, have you ever had any strange or unusual things happen in the woods behind your property? I got a reply. I got this young man gave me the phone number. I called him and talked with him, and he said, man, something going on back there. He said, man, it sounds like two god awful creatures fighting sometimes, the yelling, the screaming, and all of this stuff. So apparently it's an activity area, and in retrospect, I think thinking that on those lines, that we were probably blocking their egress. They were probably wanting to move up and down that creek, and us camped out and sitting there kind of ruined their freeway or their passage. And they kind of probably have scared off other fishermen by, hey, watch this, we'll get them we'll get them out of here, watch this. Well, it worked, but I did go out. I did start doing field. That was my area of first field research. We got back in a swampy area back there, and one of my first experiences was we had found where a big tree had been pushed over, and basically it formed a bridge across two pieces of land. It was a good sized tree. Two guys or people, you'd have had to have a truck or a bulldozer to push that tree over. But the way it fell, the way it broke, you could tell it wasn't wind damage. It was calculated. It formed a nice bridge. And when we got to that area, I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but it was like somebody turned a stink switch on. Not slowly filtering in, but we hit an area where this god awful smell, and the best way I can describe it is something dead laying in sewer water mixed with a wet dog smell. It's scungy. And we both smelled it. At the same time, and it was putrid. And I'm going, man, where did they, we're looking for something dead laying there. It's like you're standing over a dead carcass. It's that pungent, but there isn't anything there. So we start backing up because, man, it was stinky. We reached a point backing up where it was like somebody turned the stink switch off. It wasn't there. It cleared out quick. Well, yep. I took the hint, man. I wasn't gonna go. I didn't like smelling that, and I took the hint. Maybe we shouldn't be back in here, But we went to another area. We set a trail cam out at that area, and came back, and it was gone. Now, could somebody have stolen it? Yes, could have. Don't know, but not likely where we put it. One, you'd have to know where the trail cam was hidden. And unless you just look right through all of this brush, and first of all, I don't know what anybody be back in there anyway for. That wasn't close to the creek for fishing. But we lost the trail cam back in there. And so we went to another interconnecting waterway, and that's where I had my first sighting. Visual sighting through binoculars. But on a couple of our trips in there, following a pipeline clearing, following a pipeline right of way, we were followed, we were paralleled, heard occasionally whatever was paralleling or following us. Occasionally, you would hear a very good sized branch. Crack, snap. And sounded pretty large, whatever they were breaking. And of course, we'd stop and it would stop. We had stuff tossed at us, and we're newbies now. I'm still in do they exist or don't exist? But where we were, we didn't cross posted signs because the old fence that was there got blown down and destroyed. So I didn't jump over a fence or everything, but it was restricted land back in there. That's all I won't go into details, but it was restricted land. And my story was I didn't cross any fence and I didn't see any sign, but other areas there, yeah, you'd have to hop a fence or cross a posted sign. But the likelihood of somebody just casually going back in there, it on a work week day, I mean, when people are a lot at work or something, the chances of somebody being in there were very, very slim, to jack with us or just hanging out. But paralleled, and then I was in there where I had my first visual sighting through binoculars. One of my pictures, and we could go over it sometime, was there, and that's when I really realized, Ricky and Blake, they're real. They're very crafty, and my Native American connections, I got my whole attitude changed. I thought they were an undiscovered primate, monkey, some of them Gigantopithecus, they say it's a descendant of them and yada, yada, yada. And I'm not throwing stones at the scientific community, but when something looks you in the eye, has feeling in its eyes and emotion and other things. I won't get into some of the stuff, but I have experienced mind speak, whatever, picture talk. There's different words for it. On a number of occasions, they have actually communicated, and whether anybody believes it or not, I'll go to my grave knowing what I know. And this is it's kind of a, I won't call it a catch-22, but there are people that are interested in this study. There are people that are entertained by this subject. You have the people that want the proof. They want to be the first to discover. And you have the people that have been there and done that so much. There's no doubt they know they exist. And they've gone beyond wanting to prove anything or seeking verification from the non-believing public, and I've been there now for a number of years where I don't care if anybody believes me. I don't care what they think I saw or didn't see. Whatever they believe or accept has no bearing, or does it even affect what I've experienced out there. I mean, I'm not looking for somebody to give me a pat on the back and say you're right or I agree with you. I just enjoy sharing with somebody that's interested in the subject. Does that make sense, Ricky? I was in, exactly. I was in Georgia last, well, let's see, no, it's actually 2 years ago. It was in 2019. And at the one of the Georgia Bigfoot conferences. And I had a blast just showing pictures, showing videos of stuff. I've been fortunate. You can call it fortunate. You can call it blessed, whatever, of these subjects. And I think probably the biggest thing is they realize that I respect them. I don't worship them. I don't put them in a deity level. Although they have some extraordinary powers, I look at them just as my Cherokee ancestors did. They are a tribe. They are a group. I haven't had them answer me in Cherokee yet. I'm hoping to one day, but I do think maybe native blood may have an effect or a connection there. Don't know for sure. Some native groups won't even discuss it. You mention it, and it's taboo. It's a.
Talking about them being, a lost tribe, which it makes 100% sense because just like their supposable language, samurai chatter.
Right.
We have proof that there's something in the woods that speaks a language that we don't know what we have no way to decipher what it's saying.
Blake and I have heard it on quite.
It makes 100% sense. I mean, it's they speak a language that we don't know in modern day. It just it makes too much sense.
Well, I've talked with people that have heard them speak English and speak names. One one family up in Ohio shared with me that around dinner time, mom would come out, and yell for the kids to come in, and the kids would be out in the woods later, and they'd hear their names being called, and they'd come back home and they'd say, "Mom, what'd you call us?" She said, "I didn't call you." "No, Mom, we heard you calling us." And they never had a bad experience with the locals there.
Yeah.
They knew they were there. They accepted them. I've seen this many times where you have some of the big guys living around, an area. If you're with the landowner, they're more apt to come out and interact, knowing who you're with, that they trust. Going in case in point, modern day time, I was up out of Jay, Oklahoma. That's up in the north eastern quadrant of Oklahoma. There was a full-blood Cherokee tribal member there that had maybe 40 acres. And where I'm talking about, Ricky and Blake, we're not talking a big metropolitan area. We're talking very rural town, outside the very rural town, in I won't call it a neighborhood, but there were several other houses and property kind of all bunched in this area. And the landowner would put out jars of peanut butter along his fence line, okay? And he would tell the big guys, as long as you leave my sheep, my cattle, my dogs and chickens alone, I'll leave you peanut butter out here, okay? And they called him the Howler. I was out there for a day and a night, and I got a video of the Howler coming up through a ravine, and he's doing this little old kind of whoop. He's not worried about who's hearing him or anything. I was kind of hoping he'd come up where I could get a good video of him. Couldn't do it. It was too thick and rugged. I couldn't get down in that ravine for sure. But that man, I was out there on the backside of his property, and I saw a jar of peanut butter with the lid on the fence post, not laying on the ground with the lid off, like, if an animal broke into it. It was with the lid on, and I took it off the fence, unscrewed the lid, and about 2/3 of it was gone, with a big thumb press and an index swirl. I wish I'd have sent you the pictures. You could have showed them, I guess. I don't know if you could have done it now, but I can send you those pictures. But it wasn't a big deal with him. The big guy would leave his stuff alone, but even his dogs. I was out there on the top of a ridge, and they were kind of hanging with me. When the Howler got close, they didn't bow up. Their tails went to wagging, and they shot off in the brush toward the Howler's direction. I don't know if they got to him. I never heard any scuffling. I never heard any whimpering, barking or whining. They were out there for a while, and they came back, tails just a wagging, kind of like it was somebody they knew, in the area. So there are, and I'm not going to try to present on this program that there probably isn't dangerous rogues out there that you want nothing to do with. That's always a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, there's areas that,
I think a lot of that has to do with circumstance, and just like us as humans, you have ones that are going to be more aggressive than others.
Well, let me put it this way: you've got a family, you've got children that you got to feed and care for, and you had a bunch of strangers come onto your land and start taking your food, just coming or tearing up your property, just coming in and rudely messing up stuff. You may have and I don't know what all these markings mean. Okay, it may mean a birthplace. I don't know. I don't know what the significance is, but if you had somebody coming in and tearing up signs on your property, and being rude, and loud and boisterous, you're probably not going to be cordial to them either. you know,
Nope.
and
Okay.
that's where people forget they were there first. That was their land. You know, we're the
We're the
ones moved.
intruders. Yep.
Yeah, we
Exactly.
still are.
Exactly. And you know, the level of pride, you know, in some people, they can't wrap their mind around about showing them a little, you know, to even tell somebody to talk to them, they go, do what? You know, you think I ran, you know, fell off a turnip truck? But I can tell you, my my first good, clear visual sighting, and I'll tell this story. I'm up at a Native American drum making workshop, you know, east of Lake Eufaula. Okay, I guess Porham would have been the closest city, and I spent 2.5 days lurking around with a night vision scope and a video, trying to sneak and get a good picture of the group that lived around a mixed blood lady's property. Okay, and she had told me a lot of stuff that was way over my head at the time that I didn't disbelieve, but it was hard for me to accept. And I spent 2 days getting like a chicken running around with my head cut off. I'd get a little wood knock, I'd get a little whoop, then nothing, and then they were basically just, you know, herding me around out there with, you know, little oh, did you hear that? You know, and head off that way. And I sat out there for 2 nights at night, and I've got a video of it wasn't Cherokee, and the landowner said they would come through a gap in the trees into the orchard to pick the fruit at night, and I lurked out there real subtly. I checked to make sure I wasn't being followed. Unless somebody had excellent night vision, they wouldn't have known that I was out there hiding under the trees, you know. And I actually got a very distinctive female voice on a directional mic, basically telling another. I don't know Choctaw, but one word I do know in Choctaw is nani, which is fish, and basically, uh, the female voice says it several times, kind of chanting, warning another third party, nani hushkane. And basically, if you know, if you're fluent Choctaw, it's colloquialism or a phrase, but it's basically, you know, nani is fish, hush is an exclamation like oh my, oh God, and kane is don't let him or don't let them. Basically, in the translation, the meaning may be different. I mean, you know, you hear somebody go, oh nuts. Okay, if they didn't know English, they'd say, okay, he's talking about a little, you know, talking about a nut, food. What's he mean? You know, so I don't know. You know, it could be a phrase, but basically what I get out of it is watch out, he's fishing, or he's fishing, don't let him catch you, or something, a third party warning to another, which I'm out there by myself. So that was kind of an interesting capture, but I was out there that second night at the end of a logging road by myself, very frustrated, sitting on my tailgate. I hadn't got any videos. I didn't. I didn't experience what I wanted to. Although later, yeah, I did get some pretty good videos of a young one. But I just not broke down, but I just vented and I just said, "Look, I got that feeling of being watched. I'm out there by myself." I said, "Look, I'm not here to hurt you. I just want a good close-up look of you, you know. I just want to see you up close." Okay. A guy on the radio, he was a federal officer active at that time, was coming down the logging road, and he said, "Rick, look, I'm coming up the road to you." You know, I mean, there wasn't anybody creeping up on anybody out there. I had the walkie-talkie for safety too. I don't think it's a good idea for you to get way out in the woods by yourself. Even though I don't fear them, there's a lot of stuff going on I don't understand. And it's always prudent to have a safety plan. I could tell you some other stories. I won't get into that, but people do it, and I'm not. If you choose to, but there is other. How could I put it? In my years of doing this, there is other stuff working here that I don't understand, and I won't get. I mean, I could talk for several hours on some. I'm not going to call it fringe stuff, but it's very it's I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. I know I'm talking in circles because there's too much there, but there's other stuff working out there, and it's good for you to not be out there by yourself. I'll just leave it at that. That's my recommendations.
Yeah.
So anyway, I came back, in, and he said, "Hey, you knew I saw a movement up to the north side of you. You were being watched." And I said, I kind of had the feeling of that. So I drove back. Next night, drum making workshop is over. There was a lot of Native American drumming, music, ceremonial stuff around the campfire, and really, really nice, really moving, spiritually too. And I'm not talking channeling spirits and stuff. It's just kind of it's kind of like a warm cup of hot chocolate sitting by a warm fireplace, just drinking the hot chocolate. You have family and tribe. There's very sacred stuff that is family tradition. Is that a good way to put it? So anyway, I left the fireside service early, and I made it a point when I left the group, folks. I didn't go straight into the woods and start exploring or setting up. I would go one direction, I would get in the woods, and then I'd work my way around. She had about 40 acres of clear cut. So if I went into the woods on the west side, I was really wanting to go to the east side. I'd swing around slowly, and that way I wouldn't be followed. I still at that time was a little doubtful, thought I was, maybe going to be pranked. Some of that stuff sounded too incredible. I got hunkered in there, and this landowner found me, walked right up to me, and I said, "How did you know I was here?" She goes, "They told me you were here." And I'm still on the doubtful stage here. Yeah, okay. The next thing she said hit me right up between the eyes like somebody landed a hard punch. She said, "Do you want to go see them?" Okay. Now, getting hit by a comet is not impossible. Struck by lightning is maybe more likely, but still not very likely. What is the chances of me being out in the woods by myself, way out west of this land, telling them or asking them, saying, "Look, I just want to see you up close"? The next night, a landowner finds me out there hiding in the pitch dark in the bushes, walks right up to me. I'm shocked that she found me. And I asked her, "How did you know?" She said, "They told me you were here." And the next thing she says is, "Do you want to go see them?" If you're an odds maker, what are the odds or the chances of that just randomly happening? That blew me away. I went, "Whoa, something going on here." Yeah, too big, and that's what I was looking for was substance. And so followed her up to the north side of the property, and she started calling them by name. Okay. I'm thinking, yeah, there's people hiding out there in the woods. She's already had them out there hiding. Again, when a person's walking through leaves and brush, and when you got a horse or a larger, heavier animal, there's a bit different sound to it, folks. And whatever was coming up out of that creek bottom sounded very big to me. And it didn't come from just one direction. It came from about 3 different directions. And it was multiple in each direction. So at the very least, 6, 8, 9, 10 people sounding very heavy, were making their way up that creek bank in the thick Oklahoma, underbrush towards us. And she had like I said, a clear cut area pasture with a wood stock fence, to keep the cattle in. I'm leaning on it. It's maybe 5 feet, high to put my elbows on. Whatever was coming up that direction sounded awful big. It never broke through the clear cut went about 10 feet beyond the fence, and then it was just thick brush. There was about a 2/3 moon, but when you got in that thick canopy, it was pitch dark. Are we running out of time?
Oh, no.
Okay. So anyway, I asked her. She had told me you can't use a flashlight or night vision or a camera without asking me. They don't like it. They don't like stuff you put up to your face. And so I looked at her, and when this stuff, all these steps came up and stopped in the brush, I said, "Can I use my can I use my night vision? Something big is awful close out there, and I don't know what it is." And I don't do vulnerable very well. I don't. And so I wanted to get a look at what was about 20 feet away. And this is one of those things I have no answers for. This brand new night vision scope would not come on. I'm just telling you, I had just been using it. It was brand new. When she said, "Yeah, go ahead," it wouldn't come on. I messed with it. I tried it several times. Now I'm really getting freaked because I'm thinking, if somebody's messing with me, how in the world are they affecting these electronics? Even came through my mind that this woman was actually a witch or something. I'm looking for answers here. The third time, I tried, I looked at her, I said, "It doesn't work, or it won't work." She smiled and she said, "Try it now." The thing comes on, okay? The scope actually comes on. I'm really out of my comfort zone at this point, folks. I'm freaked out. And at that point, I pull it up. I can't break night vision isn't an X-ray scope. You can't get through the foliage. If it's thick, it blocks out the IR signature just like it does regular light. I couldn't really see anything back in there past the thick leaves and brush. So I put it up. I turned it off and said, I can't see anything. So I put the scope up. Next thing she said is she said, "Do you want to go see them?" And I I'm going to be honest with you, folks. My testosterone pride wouldn't let me wimp out in front of a woman. But if she'd have been a man, I'd have said, "I'm good." I'd have begged off. But I don't. We're getting what? Probably overtime now, or
Oh, no, man. Just go right ahead.
Are we okay?
Oh, yeah.
You're good, brother.
Okay. So we go through the fence. We go down this thick, in front of this thick brush, back maybe 100 yards, and then turn into. It was a little clear-cut path through the brush. It was a well-traveled path, and when we got in, I could see her pretty good. It was about a 2/3 moon out in the pasture, but when we turned into that thick canopy and brush, it was almost pitch dark again. And I stayed on that woman 6 o'clock, man. I was in her personal space, but I wasn't about to let her, I didn't want to get in there alone because there was stuff moving all around. I could hear it within grabbing distance, and I would not look. It's kind of like one of them spooky rides as a kid. You just kind of hunker down and don't look. There was stuff moving on both sides of us, and I wasn't ready to see what was there. I was pretty scared, and I stayed just could see the dim back of her head and keep it in sight. We got in there maybe 150 yards. Another little trail intersected it. So we took a left, kind of a little T intersection. And we got back maybe 30 feet, 30, 40 feet. She had a big circular clear cut area there with 2 folding chairs. I remember she had cornmeal hanging from the tree limbs off the ground so the critters wouldn't get it. They loved cornmeal. She had goodies for them there. That was her meeting place. And there was movement all around us. And she's calling them by name, and they're moving, and I'm trying to very discreetly look now, but I'm still scared. As clear as I'm talking to both of you, God's my witness. This, you know, I'm freaking out, and a voice clear in my head says, "Why are you carrying a gun?" Okay. Nobody at that function knew I had a gun. Okay. I'm honorably retired law enforcement. I carry protection like a set of keys. Nobody's ever going to see it or know that I have it. It's none of their business. You know, it's none of their business how much money I got in my wallet. It's none of their business what I have on my person. I'm one of the good guys. I'm never going to hurt anybody, never have, never will. But, you know, and I won't get into the gun advocate stuff, but I'm being honest with you. I'm one of the good guys, and I've got a legal right to protect myself, and I take full advantage of it. So anyway, and I don't need somebody else telling me whether I do or I don't. That habit saved me from attack by 3 feral pit bulls one time. If I hadn't had something with me, folks, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. So it saved my life, and it stopped me from getting robbed. I'll get off of that, but anyway, nobody knew I had a gun on me. Okay, and this voice says, "Why are you carrying a gun?" And at that point, I'm thinking, Rick, you're losing it. You're hearing voices. You're hearing voices in your head. You are losing it, you know? And as clear, it's like they turned the volume up like 10 times more intense, and it was more assertive or, you know, direct. Why are you carrying a gun? And that second series of words very clearly, much stronger in my head, I realized they were talking to me, you know. I didn't understand it, but they were talking to me. I have since talked to other people. They talk about mental telepathy, mind speak, and a whole lot more. But anyway, I don't know how I knew how to answer them, but maybe it's a primal ability that we as a people all once had and used and lost through, you know, civilization and stuff, you know, and houses. But I answered them in my head. It's a tool of protection that I've carried on my job. I've carried it around my family. I've carried it around my close friends. I've never hurt them with it, and I will not hurt you now. That's what I, in my head, as clear as a bell, they named my host by name, and they said, "Step away from her." And I I looked over at her and I said, "Look, they're telling me to move away from you." And she didn't look stunned, shocked. She just casually smiled, big smile, and she goes, "Do what they tell you to do." You know, now you got to understand that big circle of clearing had the moonlight coming in kind of like a spotlight, because I could see pretty good right there. But as I walked back towards the trail, it got darker. I want to tell you, it was one of the hardest things I did to move away from that woman, because she was their friend, and it was almost like, you know, step away from the car. I was fixing to get whacked, is what I thought might happen, but I was doing a whole lot of praying. That's all I can tell you. I was doing some very intense praying, because God's really been good to me and bailed me out of a couple of sure death situations. He's real. He's a good buddy. I'm not a religious man. Religion judges and hurts and puts people down, but I am a spiritual man. Big difference. Big difference. So I got back to that T in the two trails, and I stopped and I wondered which way to go. Do I need to stand here? What do I need to do? Because I'm not hearing the voice anymore. I looked down the trail where we came, didn't see anything. I looked to my left, deeper into the woods. I don't know if you remember that. You might be old enough, might not, or you might have seen reruns. Years ago, when I was just a little crumb snatcher, I remember the Ed Sullivan show, and one of his big things were he would come out of the curtains into the spotlight and greet the crowd. Okay, it was just like the Ed Sullivan show, about 50 yards or 50 feet. Yeah, 50 feet, not 50 yards, a bit too far away. There was a sliver of moonlight illuminating that trail, and out of a big, thick tree stepped out from behind the tree right into that moonlight. It was like orchestrated, and that joker was every bit of 10 to 12. He was a big alpha male. No doubt he was a male, and he stepped in the spotlight, and he's looking at me. I can't see his eyes, but I can see his deep sunken eye. I can see a brow ridge in the face in the dim moonlight, and he's just doing this side to side sway. Okay, and my host asked me. She goes, "Can you see him? Can you see him down there?" And I said, "Yeah, he's right there. He's swaying." Don't know the significance of this either, but she said sway with him. So I kind of, gauged my sway with him. And again, folks, I don't know the significance of this, but I started hearing crackling and crunching, kind of quartering to my right in the thick brush, and out about 15 feet, again in a sliver of moonlight through the break in the canopy. I would call him young because I'm 6 foot. I don't remember looking up at him or looking down at him. We were basically level eye to eye, 15 feet away. And, I'm looking at this big, massive. I mean, he was my height, but he had me double on weight, massive, in shoulders and girth. But he's looking at me and his jaw's dropping open. Like he's getting a good look at me, and then he's turning his head back towards the big, like maybe that's dad, and then he looks back at me, and then he looks back again, right in front of me, not in the brush, but down the trail towards the big guy. Another about 6 foot female, obviously very female, could tell that immediately. In another sliver of moonlight. It was the way they did this was like man, they were good. And she was female, and I'm looking at her. Behind her, between the big alpha male and these two 6 foot, what I'll call juveniles, okay, younger ones, another eight. About, I'm estimating she was taller than the young female in front of me, but not as tall as the big guy in the back. I'm assuming that was Mama, but I couldn't get a real good look at her past the 6 foot female, and she wasn't in a well lit area, but I could tell I had 4 subjects right there. They weren't threatening. They held their positions. At some point right then, as a parent, it dawned on me that the big alpha male was trusting me enough to let his young get a close look at me. And as a parent, when it sunk in that he was trusting me, my fear totally vanished, man. I mean, it turned from being apprehensive to I was kind of giggling. And I mean, it was short lived though, because the next thing that happened was not something I was expecting. The best way I can describe it, folks, when these subjects are close to you, the atmosphere is literally charged. It is very, it's intense. I can't put it into words, but it's intense, overwhelming. Some people panic and lose it, I guess. I don't know, and they may read it differently, but it's a very intense feeling. But because of the brush, I couldn't see, but I was noticing movement in front of that female about 15 feet away from me down the trail that had stepped out from behind a tree. There was something moving in front of her, and I kind of keyed on downward, not looking at them, but and then I saw this little head bobbing around. It was a young one. I mean, in front of the female, a little toddler, and it's just kind of looking around. And I'm keying on it, trying to get a better look at it, because my mind's saying, this is a baby. This is a young one. And at that point, this is the curveball I never seen coming. That little one, I could see its little head turn around, and then it tilted back, and I realized that it noticed me. And just like, you have a toddler where they bolt towards you with their hands raised, that's what that little joker did. It bolted towards me like, Daddy, pick me up, or, Grandma or Uncle. And folks, I like to have had a heart attack. Okay. Having these big, massive, hairy things close to you is intense. But having a little hairy one latch on to you, and the most fearful thing was I feared it didn't know who I really was, and once it realized that, it was going to scream out, and Big Daddy was going to race down there and break me in half. I mean, I was afraid he was going to get scared. Fortunately, that young female lunged forward, caught it under one arm, and pulled it back to her. At that point, I looked over at my host and I said, I'm through. Let's go. I'm ready. I mean, I had my look. I just didn't want the little one to latch onto me. Maybe I should have stayed there. I don't know. I don't know what would have happened, but I was at the point where my blood pressure and the whole thing, it was time to go. Man, I'd had all, so I backed out. As I was backing out with her, or, leaving, the big alpha male, you down the trail right there, tilted his head back and kind of, with his mouth, gave the perfect barred owl call I've ever heard. Very, it was genuine sounding. If somebody had heard it from the distance, they'd have said, oh, it's just a barred owl, not barn, but barred, B-A-R-R-E-D, barred owl. And hey, he cut loose with several. Fortunately, I had my little RCA Small Wonder that I had been fidgeting with the whole time on, and I got it on audio of him cutting loose with the owl call. I also got one, it's in my book, the enhanced there, Ricky, where the one is peeking out on the side of the trail as I'm passing. One of them's the dim moonlight shot. I had that thing in my hand just snapping pictures as I was following my host in. That's how close. That wasn't on telephoto, Ricky. That was the real distance that I was, that I captured on him. But folks, I enjoy sharing. I got a ton of other stuff, that I can share, but that's basically my early experiences of these individuals. They're very complex, but they live a very simple life. I was up it'd be last year, it'd be November. I went up to Montana. There wasn't a whole lot of activity, but with me at my age, I'm guaranteed at least 2 trips, during the night. I'm going to wake up and, we had been out since after midnight. I've got to set up. I sleep in my camper shell, not out of fear. I just don't want to be poked and bothered at night. I want glass and metal between me and the outside. again, not out of terror or fear, but almost every time I go on these expeditions, they'll come in and I don't know if they're wanting to say hi or just have a look, but I'm out there and I got a little canopy over my rear camper shell where I can get down. I've got a little porta potty and a little individual tent. Well, we were north of Yellowstone, so it's grizzly territory, and we seen a mama black bear and her cubs just a quarter mile down the road. So it's like 3 in the morning, and I'm in that little tent relieving myself, and I hear a. I mean, um, you know, needless to say, I cut the trip short because I wasn't sure if it was a big guy or a grizzly bear, not something I'd really want to meet at night, at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I got back in my camper shell. Well, the next day we had some pretty good prints right out the tent there. But yeah, I've had them come up, many times camping at night. But the lady next to us, it was a group, had put out cameras, which I don't know how they defeat it, but she had her cameras tactically set, backing each other up, and she had a bunch of stuff moved, and nothing showed up on the cameras. Now you explain that one to me. I mean, they had stuff. How they do some of the stuff they do, I don't know. But anyway, Ricky, I know we're kind of over.
Actually, I'm sure Ricky would agree. Would you want to do a part 2 series with us so you can kind of go
yeah,
on from now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I could probably talk
I would definitely like to hear more of your stories, and I'm sure everybody else would too. So,
well, I wrote the book to share my early experiences and I actually to show pictures because I've got a lot of my pictures from video of
if you don't mind, go ahead and send those to Ricky. And then when we do the show again with you, when's our next available?
Okay.
Yeah, I can send a lot of what I've talked about.
Then we can actually show them on here on the next.
I've got the 3rd of March covered, but now I've got the 10th, the 17th, the 24th, and the 31st. Whichever one of those would work for you.
We'll talk about it. I've got to look at my schedule, but yeah, I'd love to, and I love sharing, folks. That's the bottom line is this is it's not I'm semi-retired, but it's one of my things I really love doing. My wife, she knows I'm not a liar or a fabricator, but she's still neutral. She hasn't seen one yet. She's been growled at. We were up in southeastern Oklahoma. I was trying to coax a side peeker out from behind a tree, and it was the first time I've ever been growled at. I mean, it was a roar and shocked me. Well, when he growled again, I said, "Look, okay, big boy, I can take the hint. I'm leaving." Well, I didn't know that, and I won't mention the group, but within a short distance of that area, another well-known research group had attempted to harvest a specimen, okay? And a guy cut loose with a shotgun. They did have blood. They did find blood, so he did hit, I don't know if it was buckshot or a slug. He had both. But yeah, he's lucky he didn't hit some picnickers. I won't get into the juicy details there, but I'm going to tell you right now, these people that think they're going to go out and kill one, I'm gonna show you an angle that a lot of people don't consider. I was in an area there after this happened, not knowing that happened prior to. Had a Bigfoot been killed and taken there, If you know back Native Americans, some of it was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. If one tribe it accidentally or intentionally killed a member of another tribe, well, guess what? To even the balance of things, the member of the offending tribe would be killed. Okay. Well, if these things are as tribal as I believe they are, and if you're a light skinned person in the woods and you harvest one of these things, killing it for the sake of science, I think that's just a front. I think they're wanting the money and the fame that
They
comes with it.
want somebody to have one.
You have to consider you'd have to consider that there may be innocent farmers and landowners in that area that may take the wrath of your actions. If you kill one out, or what?
That was something I was wanting to ask you before we get off here. And
Okay.
you were talking about the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma, they have a bill. I'm not sure what the number of the bill is, but they have a bill on the books that they're trying to push through to open a season on Bigfoot. What are your feelings on that?
Highly offensive. Highly offensive. I can't impose my beliefs and views on other people, but as a ex law enforcement officer and having interacted with these things, they're not. Ricky, the Cherokee Removal Act was pushed through by Andrew Jackson for the safety and security of the Cherokee people. To protect them.
Hey, man,
Do you know how many thousands died on the Trail of Tears for their safety?
My grandfather is full-blooded Cherokee. My grandfather died in 1972. Mr. Alfred Painter from North Carolina, up at and his family actually, after all this went down down here in Georgia and all, his family actually moved to what is now known as Fontana, North Carolina. They moved completely off the reservation up there because of the fact of all this junk going down, and his father, my great grandfather, Bill Painter, basically wanting to distance his family from all of this. So he moved his family over to Fontana, North Carolina. My grandfather, I talked to him when I was younger, and he died, I think, when I was like 12, 14 years old. But he had actually told me of these creatures, these people of the forest himself.
Forest.
They considered them watchers of the mountain. They watched over the mountains.
Exactly.
They watched over the animals. They watched over even the tribes, basically of his ancestors. And he always held these creatures in great revere. And that's the reason my question to you about the Oklahoma deal with them trying to bring up a hunting season up there. No, I'm completely against it myself.
I don't. Oh, I am too. I don't think, with all of your native groups up there and many understanding the dynamics going on, the one thing that I really admire about the Cherokee people is they don't let their past rule their future. They're very progressive, but you never want to forget your past. And what people have to understand is these subjects have seen what has happened with the European, influx. They don't want to be recognized, and these groups, claim we need to get them established and protected. No, they do fine without our influence, but it's going to be kind of a tenuous, very touchy thing because there's more sightings, there's more emphasis, there's more interest. I don't have an easy answer for it. I really don't. No more than when the Georgia Gold Rush came along in the 1830s and the Cherokees had embraced Christianity and land ownership and titleship, and then boom, it was all taken away in a heartbeat from them. I can only carry a quarter of my grandmother's side. My grandfather, who was mixed blood, his family didn't want to get registered. They didn't trust the federal government, rightfully so. But anyway, there are tribal people, and in my opinion, as ex-law enforcement, it's murder if you killed one. And don't think that if you do happen to kill one, there isn't others there. And I've seen how they can throw stuff. You might not see that 100-mile-an-hour fastball hit upside your head. You know, you be carrying a cannon, but if you don't see the rock coming, they're going to be able to take you out. You know, and there's other stuff I've experienced I don't have an answer for. They've got some abilities and powers there. And, you know, people, oh man, now you're getting into zapped, and you know, I could tell you a couple stories. It was for my own good, not malicious, and that's another whole story. I was hog hunting, and I was by myself, and there was, you know, I think they were telling me, you need to get out of here and not stir up these hogs.
You know, I had the same thing happen to me a couple of years ago. I was down in South Georgia with some friends of mine, and we were on a WMA down there, and we'd been there a couple of days. Well, on Saturday night, along about 6 o'clock that evening, I got this weird feeling, and it was like something was telling me to leave. You need to leave now.
Yeah.
And that happened periodically on up until around 10, 11 o'clock that night. And finally, I told the guys that I was with, look, I'm packing up and I'm getting out of here. Well, these guys laughed at me. You know, oh man, you just chicken, you know. And no, I'm not. You can ask Blake, man. When I go into an area to research an area, I'm there for duration. Whatever happens, we've had rocks thrown at us, we've had trees pushed over, all kind of crazy stuff happened, but I've always been there. But this was something different. Well, I left.
Yep.
Well, the next week or the following week, there was a friend of mine that lived in the area down there, called me and asked me, said, hey, did you have any involvement with law enforcement while you were down here? And I told him, no, I didn't see any. Well, come to find out, the very night that I left, sometime during that day or the following day, they had found a young girl who had been raped and murdered down there about 2 miles from where we were at. So, you know, whether this was something that it just intuition with me, or whether it was something that the creatures that inhabited this area was actually telling me, you know, because of my ancestral blood or whatever, I don't know. But I feel that they were actually telling me to leave, to get out of there. And I did. I packed up and left.
I had a group trying to instill interaction in an area in Kentucky, and this was one of those clear voices. Female told me she had young with her, and she did not know this group of people and did not want us in that area. You know, basically, she was a mother with young, and she didn't want any interaction with this group. And I told the group, I said, we're not gonna have any luck here. Well, how do you know? I said, I didn't tell her talking and everything, but it turned out to be true. I said, we're not going to get anything here. We're wasting our time. Where I've had a lot of luck is young juveniles, man. They like to mess with people, you know, and a game with them is to see how close they can get to you without being seen. You know, it's kind of like a game with them, and they love chunking stuff and banging, and it can be a blast, folks. I mean, I had a group of newbies, and that's a whole other story. I was able to get some night vision, though, of one big guy moving back through the trees. It was pretty nice, you know. So anyway, hey, I've enjoyed sharing, you know, and we'll set a time, you know, here in the near future, and I'll send you some of my videos and pictures, and I can tell you the circumstances, and what was going on there. I mean, is there a size? Well, yeah, to send them. I don't know. Facebook has like a 25 KB limit, right? Isn't that something?
Maybe I will send them through email.
I think it's 80 by something that we have on StreamYard. But just send them to my email, and I will post them from my email.
Okay. All right. I'll go through and get you. Go through and get you some interesting stuff.
Okay, man.
Folks would really like it.
Just let me know. You know, the date.
All right.
If you want to come back again, you know, if it's in March, I've got the 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st open. So just give me just give me a shout back on.
Yeah, just send me an email with those dates. I'll go through it and look at my schedule and see what would work the best.
Okay.
Really looking forward to it, Ricky.
Richard, we have really enjoyed having you on here tonight.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's just definitely been an enjoyment having you on the show.
Well, thank you. I just, if people are interested in this, my book, you know, Bigfoot, best way, just Google Richard Taylor Bigfoot and my links will come up. Yeah. Just
guys, by all means, check out his book.
All right. I appreciate it, man. Y'all take care.
We'll see you soon, brother.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, Mr. Richard, Stewart Taylor, excuse me.
Yeah. What do I do? What kind of button do I push here then now? I'm all techno.
Off here in this second.
All right then. Sounds good. Thank you, Blake. Rick, I appreciate it, man. Folks, take care.
You, brother.
All right, thank you. Goodbye. Thank you again. Again, ladies and gentlemen, before we get out here, Mr. Richard Stewart Taylor, author of My Encounters with the Forest People, America's Last Free Tribe. Again, I read a good bit into the book today. A very interesting book. If any of you want a real good book to add to your Bigfoot collection, this would be it. I'm going to actually, after the show tonight myself, I'm going to sit down and finish it. Very, very interesting. We really thank Richard tonight. We hope all y'all folks that watched us tonight and the ones that watch us in the future really enjoy this. Blake, I'm going to turn it over to Blake and let him do our closing. Again, folks, if you're ever out in the woods and you encounter these things, please, don't try to interact with them. Unless they actually show you that they want your interaction, just kindly bow your head, back out, and leave the area quietly. Blake,
give them space and show them respect. Do what, Ricky?
I said, do you have anything else before we close out?
Nope. As always, guys. One thing. If you don't mind, please go show him some love. Order his book for him. And always, guys, if you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button, bell notification, like, and a comment. And we sure do appreciate your guys' support. We are continuing to grow. So if you don't mind, like I said, if you're not already subscribed, just go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And I hope everyone has a great night. And thank you guys so much.
Again, you've watched another broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. We're going to sign out next week on the 10th. We have Travis Allen Shipper with Skip's Haunted Adventures. He's going to be on with us going over paranormal. That's going to be Blake's forte on that one. But again, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later. Close her out here, Blake.